than the first set of decks we saw.
We're
here's some
already
new decks.
there. Some
Wow.
new decks. Time for new decks.
Anyway, so we have Milton Figueroa on your left, Figueroa on your left, with Jeff Cosgrove on your right. Milton is with Reanimator, while Jeff is playing a Stoneforge junk deck.
Yay, junk.
It's not really the sort of junk deck that a lot of people are used to. He actually doesn't have Hymn to Torak. He's more of the sort of Bant shell with Noble Hierarch and Knight of the Reliquary, along with a few spot discard with Inquisition of Kozilek, and then Gerard's Verdict, which is an interesting choice.
And this
Two Vindicates.
This is definitely a. Perhaps he's running just the Gerard's Verdict because it's a good card advantage card, and he doesn't have the ability to try to go as black heavy.
Right.
He's just barely touching into the black. This is actually much more like classic junk, because if you look at it, the legacy junks as of late have been basically based on Brian Kowal's version of the list, which is a lot closer to a rock list in a lot of ways. This list is actually fairly aggressive. Has low cards on the curve, and it has numerous 2s. So this actually can be a deck that could be a little bit more of an opportunity on the beatdown here. Yeah, Green Suns for 1 here.
So he has 2 copies of Green Suns.
Sorry, for 0, pardon me.
2 copies of Green Sun Zenith. You see, a lot of green-based decks tend to choose between Stoneforge Mystic and Green Sun Zenith. Jeff has a few of each. He has 3 Stoneforges and 2 Green Suns. So he doesn't really have much of a tutor package for the Zeniths. He does have the Dryad Arbor, which Dryad Arbor is generally actually a pretty powerful card in a deck that has equipment anyway, because it can turn your fetch lands that can get forests into a creature, and it could also be obviously used here with Dryad Arbor to accelerate your mana.
Now, one of the things, having a Terravore as a target, Terravore can conditionally be a huge, huge creature.
Monster.
But there's also opportunities for it to be a small, small creature.
Yes.
Milton Figueroa takes his second turn.
So, Jeff's deck here, as far as the stuff that he has that he can interact with Milton,
Game 1?
Game 1 he has Inquisition, which is good. He has Swords, Plowshares, Vindicate, and Verdict. Verdict isn't really going to do much in this matchup other than enable his opponent's fatties going to the yard. And Inquisition is a solid card here. It can take his opponent's reanimation spells, his enablers. But Jeff definitely needs to start getting some aggression going, or else Milton will just have as much time as he needs to get his combos set up.
He lays his third land, his turn 2 third land. And Karakas is one card he has that interacts with a lot of potential cards from Reanimator. So what he can do is he can potentially tutor up a Karakas with Knight of the Reliquary. And a lot of Milton's cards are legends that he can hit. Like Jingataxis is a legend, and that's one of the most common cards that you can see come out. Iona is a legend.
Yep.
Elish Norn, a legend. That does not, however, do much help against the other 3 cards, which are either not legends or not legends and untargetable. We see 2 mana here. Jeff Cosgrove, not knowing what his opponent's playing yet. Dark Confidant. It's possible he knows just from having sat nearby Milton Figueroa, but other than that kind of thing, the scouting style knowing.
So,
tax for 1.
Dryad Arbor gets the beats in. Yeah, that is one thing that a lot of players, I think, often discount is the value of just being aware of what's going on around you. Obviously, it's most important to focus on your own match, but especially as tournament rounds wind down, you will generally be playing against people who you've been sitting around for the recent rounds of the tournament. So
absolutely,
you can get a lot of valuable information by just looking around in the early couple minutes of the match and taking account of what's around you.
Yeah, I definitely know at a PTQ last weekend, I played around Blasphemous Act because I saw my opponent play it. He played it in a previous match. I sat next to him. He played it. I'm like, that's a good card. I better remember that. We see a Brainstorm from Milton Figueroa. Game 1, Milton has a strong edge. And Game 2, Jeff has weapons to bring in. Bojuka Bog that he can tutor up with Knight of the Reliquary, Leyline of the Void, Paths, a Scavenging Ooze that he can Green Sun Zenith out.
Ooze is nice. Scavenging Ooze is a commander card that has gotten a lot of legacy play. It has a lot of applications. It's great against Reanimator decks because it can eat any of their reanimation targets. It's actually very, very good in any sort of Knight of the Reliquary mirror match because you can use it to remove not only creatures but a land in your opponent's yard.
Yeah, it's like a Withered Wretch on steroids.
Yeah. It's also great against Dredge. I mean, it's a little slow against Dredge, but it is certainly a card that you can use to pick apart the important parts of their graveyard.
Absolutely. Milton draws.
So
Wait and see what he does. I think we see a...
I think is that Platinum Imperium in his hand?
I think so. I believe I also see a Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize opponent only, right? It's not Cabal Therapy. You can't hit yourself.
I don't remember. That's a good question. Let's do the quickie checky checks. Thoughtseize is a player. You can hit yourself.
All right. Well, if you're really in a pinch, you can Thoughtseize yourself and make yourself discard another enabler. So we do have a Thoughtseize in Milton's hand.
I think we're going to start with the Thoughtseize, see what else is. What are the risks out there?
Yeah, and he Thoughtseizes himself.
Oh wow, he's opening on the using it as an enable. I will reveal my. You've got to reveal your hand. You got to reveal your.
It's reveal.
Reveal your hand. Reveal your hand. Reveal your hand.
So we're actually making that clear to. I don't know what that is, but well, it's gonna get discarded anyway. So that was Animate Dead, I think, from the. So this is one of the extremely powerful things about the reanimation
we need to pause this game before
those cards are getting discarded.
Okay, fair enough.
It's the end of the turn that he draws 7. So,
but he gets to know those cards. Jeff gets to know what those cards are. Milton is not going to.
I'm not. Yeah, now we're.
We might actually be like.
Right, but he draws 7. Yeah. Okay, it's the start of the end step. So yeah, this is actually relevant.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
Yeah,
relevant.
we're trying to get some contact with the judges over here because that Thoughtseize should have revealed Milton's hand. It's not a look at, it's reveal. So I believe we have gotten them to pause. All right, so he's just revealing everything.
He's like, whatever.
He's like, I got all this.
That's
he's
amazing.
like, yeah, I don't care. You can see everything.
See
I
it
got.
all. I'm not sure if this is the first time we've actually had on camera this weekend the Jin-Gitaxias
I
drawing
believe it is.
all those cards, but it usually spells doom.
So this is Jin-Gitaxias. You draw up to 7 cards at the end, or you draw 7 cards,
draw
not up to 7. You draw 7 new cards at the beginning of your end step, and your opponent has to discard down to 0 cards during their end step. What that functionally does is completely refill your hand every turn. Even if your opponent does deal with your Jin-Gitaxias, you have a whole new grip to go for another reanimation.
Back in my day, we had to pay 7 life for that.
Yeah. Not only could you, what was that? The quote-unquote fixed Necro that was like an instant play only during your end step, pay X life, draw X cards or whatever?
Necrologia.
Yes, that is in fact what it was.
I mean, there's really not much for Jeff to do at this point.
Yeah, Jeff is, to say Jeff is in rough shape would be a dramatic understatement.
It only isn't over because Jeff hasn't scooped up his cards.
Inquisition. Yep.
Cherie.
So, what did he spend his other mana on? Or does he just have mana floating?
He's got him floating.
All right.
Just in case. Yeah, he's like, what do you see is what you get.
So it's like, oh, well, I already showed these to you. So, Inquisition, yep. All right,
Pride Mage.
Well,
I do not believe so.
I think if Milton doesn't realize what that does, he may let it resolve, but no.
Force of Will.
He's paying attention.
Loses a card of some kind that is good, and
so.
And
Jeff's like, yeah, I've had enough.
Yep.
I have had enough. So the game was not technically over, but it was over. So going to sideboards here, Jeff gets to bring in, what do we have?
I think he brings in Thoughtseize, Scavenging Ooze. He could consider Aven Mind Sensor, but that's only good against Entomb, I think. Though there are some fetch lands, I should point out, actually. Leyline of the Void, Bojuka Bog are the big ones. Path to Exile he can use to supplement his swords.
And as for cards in his deck that are not so good...
I actually think that his package, his equipment package, is mostly not good.
That's the first place I would look to. I think
as-
Stoneforge Mystic, while a powerful card in a lot of matchups, being able to Stoneforge for Batterskull, Sword of Light and Shadow, Jitte, these just aren't powerful cards against Reanimator.
6 cards go away, and 2 Gerard's Verdict are simply not
those
good.
those are actively very bad.
That's 8 cards, and that's, again, Thoughtseize, Scavenging Ooze. Let's start with the other side of the board. Leyline of the Void times 2, Bojuka Bog, you got 5, 2 Path to Exiles is 7, room for 1 more. I would put in the Aven Mind Sensor. You could put in the Hymn to Turok if you want to be a little bit more risky.
Him is a little rough, I think, but it's pretty good.
Him against that deck, but I don't know. It's just still risky.
It's more that him is actually a bit rough on, as we were saying, Jeff's mana.
Mana.
So we're saying Path, Leyline, Bog, Ooze, Mind Sensor, and Thoughtseize in?
Yeah.
All right, I agree with that.
Other side of the table, this is actually a bit more difficult to kind of figure out. Blazing Archon is a card that can stop the beatdown, but it seems very vulnerable to all of the answers you could expect from the opponent. Show and Tell isn't what this kind of matchup is for.
Well, I think Show and Tell is a card that you definitely want against Graveyard Hate.
That's fair. You can bring it in against anyone that you think might have Leyline.
Leyline or Bojuka Bog, which we're certainly going to see out of a Stoneforge Mystic deck.
I could see him also thinking about Echoing Truth as an answer to Leyline. But I think the cards I definitely do like are the 2 Spell Pierce, and I think right there that might be about it, just to fight against the random things that might answer stuff like whatever might come out.
Yeah, Spell Pierce is pretty good against the discard that can come out of the junk style decks.
Yeah, and then it doesn't. He also saw Green Sun Zenith, which usually spells 4 Green Sun Zenith, which is usually a tap out card.
Mm-hmm. I could see if he's going to shave some of his numbers of his reanimation targets. I could theoretically see Duress coming in, but probably not over any of the stuff in here. I could see Daze going.
Daze seems like it could be a little bit underwhelming against a deck that has mana acceleration, and has cheap access to cheap answers.
Yeah. So Show and Tell. There's Show and Tells. There's Spell Pierce and Unmask, or rather Duress, that I think are all totally reasonable inclusions here. And yeah, I think the Dazes are a bit weak. And are there any of the creatures that you might take out?
Platinum Empyrean doesn't seem all that great to me.
Yeah, Platinum Imperium seems a bit weak. It dies to even the Pride Mage.
Nothing else actually seems strictly weak to me.
I agree.
For those of you who are just joining us, this is the final round of Swiss here at the Star City Games Open Series in St. Louis. This is SCG Live. I'm Adrian Sullivan here with Brian Kibler. And what we're bringing you today is the match of Jeff Cosgrove playing for top 8 with Stoneforge Junk and Milton Figueroa with Reanimator. I'm going to root at this point for Jeff Cosgrove for 2 reasons. Reason 1, he's down and I want to see more Magic.
All right.
And reason 2, a million years ago, I built Junk, and I want to see, this deck, a descendant of my old deck, do well.
Got a soft spot for some Scrublands and some Bayous?
I do indeed. Matt Sperling, I think, is definitely responsible for the reinvigoration of Junk as an archetype, though. He was a teenager when he did it, and it was at Grand Prix Phoenix. And the only reason that really ended up, I think, coming out of stuff is that he beat 3 of the people in Cabal Rogue that weekend in a PTQ, including 2 in the top 8. And I don't remember if he took down that qualifier or not, but I think he did. He would have been probably about 3 feet tall, though, because he was pretty young.
He's pretty tall these days, so he may have been a tall youngster. So, as far as how I think this matchup will go, I have to say I like Milton's position here.
I think Milton's in good shape.
While obviously up a game, big deal, but also the fact that he has a lot of tools to deal with all of Jeff's answers. Jeff really has a pretty light disruption package for a deck like this.
I think it's a very light package.
You often see the full amount of Thought Seizes. You often see Hymn to Thorax, and often full package of Vindicates. And Jeff is really a bit light on those. So.
Well, I mean, one of the things that makes me call one of the decks that is often called junk in Legacy, it's closer to Rock, and this is the descendant of Brian Cole's revamp of the deck, which is just like you're talking about, heavy discard and Vindicates. Right. Brad Nelson taking this to a finals in a Grand Prix Columbus.
Quarterfinals.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that junk has always been about being a mid-range aggro deck, and Rock has always been about being a mid-range control deck. And that Koal deck is definitely much more of a control deck. We've got a turn 1 Noble Hierarch here off of a Horizon Canopy.
Noble Hierarch is one of the best cards in many decks in Legacy. It's a card that I certainly miss from its time in Standard.
Absolutely. Now, there's a way in which Jeff Cosgrove's deck looks a little bit like junk and taxes, but what he does not have is he does not have the kind of chain up with Aether Vial, and he doesn't have, is it Mangara,
Mangara of Condor or whatnot?
A lot of people that did start playing that junk and taxes deck eventually went back to Vindicate.
All right, so Milton with only an island, Jeff with Bayou, and takes 1 from his Horizon Canopy. We're going to see a...
He's got access
I'm guessing a Pride Mage. No, a
Bob. And are we going to get mana here,
Bobby
I think?
comes down and... Ooh. Is this an attack?
He's thinking about it.
He's waiting on Bob.
He says okay. And Noble Hierarch casts.
Or does it attack?
I think it's casting something.
No, another
Noble
Hierarch.
Casts Hierarch. Bob can attack for 4 next turn.
That is a dangerous fellow.
He's a nice guy. I wouldn't call him dangerous.
He's certainly dangerous to anyone who decides to play him. Even Bob himself. Bob dies to his own Bob at the Vintage Championships this year, flipping a Force of Will when it was the only card in his deck that
Isn't
would
that
kill him.
how Owen Turtenwald won?
That is, in fact.
Yes.
Owen Turtenwald defeated Bob Maher in the finals of the Vintage Championship at Gen Con when Bob died to his own Dark Confidant.
Oh, the irony.
Absolutely. So Milton, I believe, is this end step? Or has he drawn his card yet?
I do not know. Careful study, so it must be during the main phase.
Unless he's
I don't see
very sneaky.
I was going to say I don't see any of the new blue ley lines out there. That's a card that I keep on wanting to play, but I just can't ever justify.
It does seem very cool. I've certainly tried to sneak it into limited decks, but it never quite managed.
Yeah, I agree. I've tried to sneak it into constructed decks, but never quite managing.
All right, so careful study.
This is actually that comment, just off comment we had there. The idea of cards never quite managing is something that deck builders need to actually pay attention to. It's just look at the data and be like, well, fun. Guess I'm not going to do it after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we see...
Is it no fatty in the yard?
No fatty. Says go. Milton Figueroa says go. Island, only permanent. Jeff Cosgrove draws a Kasali Pride Mage. Takes 2, but he has a mana advantage that could be as high as 5-1 now, depending on if he lays a land.
I do see a Show and Tell in Milton's hand. But he's several mana away from being able to cast it. A Vindicate from Jeff Cosgrove could just put this away completely.
I'm going to make a very obvious prediction that I think it's very likely Jeff Cosgrove wins this game.
I think we will likely see a game 3 from this position.
So, you're welcome. It's Captain Obvious here for you.
I will, accept the title of Nostradamus. Amazing prophecy right here.
Cast the Kasali Pride Mage from the Noble Hierarchs. Then casts a 3-cast spell of some kind.
Is this Knight? Is this Vindicate?
Either of them are pretty solid cards to cast.
Yeah, either one is kind of scary. Green Sense
for 2.
Is this another Pride Mage? Are we seeing Bob attack for 6?
That would be pretty exciting.
Or it could be Scavenging Ooze.
Ooh, he does have Scavenging Ooze. He says yes. So, Jeff Cosgrove, reveal to your opponent you have a Scavenging Ooze.
There it is. It's hidden by a bit of the border here, but that is pretty tellingly a Scavenging Ooze. Yep.
You know, I have never actually seen a Scavenging Ooze in the flesh.
Really?
I've only ever heard of its existence by mere rumor.
I actually, when I went to Nashville to play in the Open there, I actually picked up a pair of Scavenging Oozes for my deck, and they didn't ever get played, but I'm glad I have them because they're certainly a card that I'm looking to play in the future.
I have a question for you. Was Jeff Cosgrove casting and retrieving Scavenging Ooze, was that a mistake?
Why do you ask? Showing his opponent that he
Showing
has
his
Scavenging
opponent
Ooze?
that he has Scavenging Ooze.
I mean, this is still a game. This is still a game that he could lose. Like, if his opponent casts Careful Study into Reanimate here for something like, Elishnorn. I mean, this game is a pretty bad spot. Though, if he does get the Elishnorn, that Scavenging Ooze is not very good anyway.
Is dead.
But if he does get, let's say, say he doesn't cast it this turn. He Careful Studies, discards a fatty, reanimates next turn. That Scavenging Ooze, having it in play.
But he can do it next turn if he feels like he needs it.
It's possible that casting it that turn was a mistake. It's possible that there was no reason for him to commit it immediately because of the possibility of getting blown out. Though if Elishnorn does come down, I don't think the difference between that being in his hand and being in play is a huge one.
Well, here's the thing I'm thinking is that the Dark Confidant and your draw phase can give you 2 more draw steps within which you might not actually need to get the Scavenging Ooze out.
Yeah. If anything, I think it's possible that playing the Kasali Pride Mage was a mistake, and that Jeff Cosgrove should have just Green Sun Zeniths for the Scavenging Ooze.
There we go. There we go. There's a play I like.
Because then he can't actually get Careful Study reanimated.
Yeah, that's a play that I think that's the play right there. I predict that there will not be anything that will happen to punish him for this.
Well, that Careful Study does not seem to get a fatty into the yard. We do have a black source. So Milton, what was Milton's opening hand here? He kept a hand that doesn't seem to have had a fatty and only had 1 land?
I'm not sure.
Maybe there's a fatty that we missed being discarded, because I do see a Jingataxis, I think.
Duress.
Okay.
Let me see what you got there, Jeff.
And it's Source Splashes and Wasteland. That Wasteland is dangerous.
Oh, boy.
The combination of Wasteland and Scavenging Ooze here is going to make Milton's life miserable. I think Scavenging Ooze alone might be enough to win this game from this position, but Wasteland is going to definitely make it very difficult for Milton to put anything together.
Bob says, "Oh no, don't like it."
I'm certainly not a fan of that still being in Jeff's deck, but I'm interested in seeing what he's going to do with it, what pieces of his equipment package he does have in his deck.
Right. I mean, I would feel less bad about it if there was some really aggressive beatdown equipment in his board, but there isn't one.
And Wasteland takes out the Underground Sea, leaving Milton with just an island. That same island he's had all game.
Noble Hierarchs tap. 1/2. There. Stoneforge Mystic. Woo!
I don't really know what he's Stoneforging for here.
Well, to get a bad card out of his deck.
But, I mean, he's just in such a dominating position. I don't think there's any reason to spend mana. I mean, if for instance, I guess Milton can't possibly put 2 fatties in his yard and exhume. He doesn't need to be able to activate Scavenging Ooze twice.
He could study into... Oh, never mind. He's only got 1 land. I was going to say study into... Oh, that takes 4 mana. Never mind. And let's see if Jeff taps out. Does not tap out. I see an Echoing Truth. Milton packs it up.
All right, and that's game. So Milton Figueroa stumbles on land, never quite recovers. Jeff Cosgrove manages to win the game quite handily. So going to game 3 with Milton on the play, seeing what you have so far about the player's sideboard strategies, what do you feel about this matchup?
Well, I mean, I think that we're still in the same position as before. Jeff Cosgrove has weapons that he can bring in, but I'm not sure what he boarded if he's keeping in the package. I think that he really caught up a lot in the matchup after board in the way we were conceiving of the board. But with the board that he's actually employing, I don't think that he even has caught up nearly enough to make this better than, like, At this point, with Milton on the play, I bet Milton has about a 2-to-1 chance on winning this one.
It is pretty surprising to me that Jeff does have Batterskull in particular still in his deck. I could imagine having maybe, I guess sort of Light and Shadow doesn't even get by in most of the monsters too. So
none of it.
Maybe Stoneforge Mystic does represent a potentially large threat with your Batterskull there, but it is very slow. You're effectively putting a 4/4 into play on turn 3. And that's really just not the sort of thing you want to be doing.
Maybe a better way to think about it, attacking with a 4/4 on turn 4.
Right, yeah.
And that's if you're taking up your entire turns 2 and most of turn 3.
Exactly. So that's really not the position I feel like I want to be in against Reanimator, and it seems we're on the same page.
Yeah. Against Reanimator, I want to be giving them the what for?
I would like to be the one applying beatdown liberally. So, players shuffling up. I do not see either of the players explicitly go to their sideboards, though we may have missed that in our little chat here.
Just a quick note for those of you who've been watching all weekend. The player playing the Brozek Boros deck finished in a final result of 6-2-1 for the day. So if you're looking for an aggressive deck, that is potentially a viable option for you. We'll see about maybe trying to get that online, but I can't guarantee it. It's up to Glenn Jones, really, the manager of our print side. Back to this match at hand. I think I said I put it at 2-1 for Milton. What do you think the odds are in this game 3 with Milton on the play?
I would probably say that's pretty accurate. Though, it does really depend on the sort of draw that Jeff gets. On the draw, he's certainly a much bigger dog than he is in the play, and the fact that he only has access to 3 Inquisition and 1 Thoughtseize makes me much less excited about his chances. If he does draw a Leyline, he does have 2 Leylines in his deck. A Leyline on his opening hand. What are the odds of a 2 of in your opening hand?
Let me think. It's about 20%.
That was what I was thinking. It was 20-ish%. So I'm gonna give him those games.
Well, we did see,
and then we work from there.
We did see that Milton already sideboarded in Echoing Truth.
He did have Echoing Truth in his deck, though. Echoing Truth is a card that's much more effective at dealing with Leylines out of a slower deck. And if Jeff is able to play a Leyline and get some beatdown going, it could be pretty tough for Milton to recover. All right, so the players studying their opening hands. Milton is looking pained.
Furrowed brow. Now, says keep, I think.
Oh.
Now he looks fairly content. He's trying not to give anything away. He's looking straight ahead. His hand is down.
Jeff Cosgrove
to the mulligan.
Is not keeping. He is going to 6 cards. All right, so perhaps aggressively mulliganing for a Leyline. Perhaps
that's a very ambitious aggressive mulligan.
When you only have 2, it is. I mean, this is certainly the sort of matchup where you do need to mulligan aggressively. You can't afford to just have although in last game, Jeff didn't have a particularly good draw, and he did manage to get out of it, but that was because of his opponent's particularly poor draw. What Jeff really wants here is a draw with either a Leyline or a reasonable amount of disruption. His deck is pretty light in disruption, so it's tough to mulligan into a good amount of it. A single Inquisition or a single Thoughtseize probably won't be quite enough.
I think one of the things I'm not too pleased about with the look of Jeff's deck is there's kind of a schizophrenic feel to a lot of the ways he's interacting with the opponent. I mean, let's pretend you play against a fair opponent. I think you've got lots of cards that are useful. But Legacy also has the unfair opponent, and I feel like there are not enough cards that interact with an opponent who's planning on an unfair game.
I think that might be true. I tend to like the particularly disruption-heavy versions of Junk, though I also am a big fan of the Knight of the Reliquary Noble Hierarch package. So I do think that with this deck, is he going to? No, he's just dealing it out. I thought he was going to shuffle again.
I think that you can be the aggressive deck and have cards to deal with a deck that is, more unfair. But Jeff has split up his cards amongst ways to handle the unfair.
He does have a bunch of. I mean, like we said earlier, he has the split of the Stoneforge and Green Sun package, so he's trying to do a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and that can mean that if you have a good draw, you get to do all of it.
Yeah.
But I think on average draws, you get to do some of it.
Yeah. So Milton starts things off with an island into Ponder, also playing with the correct Ponder, 3 moons.
3 moon Ponder, the good Ponder.
So, as the card says, Milton is currently pondering. And as we've been saying all day, Legacy is a format that has lots of little decisions, lots of intricate things going on, and things like, do I keep this? Do I shuffle? How do I order this? They can all mean very much the difference. In particular, in a matchup where your opponent can make you discard, it's like a lot of people will naturally put the card that they want most on top of a Ponder. Like, oh, I definitely want this, and they just put it on top. Well, if you get Thought Seized, you're going to wish that was 1 or 2 down. You're going to want to leave that farther into your deck until you're actually going to be able to play it.
Windswept Heath, followed by the Go from Jeff. Milton Figueroa, looking in good shape. He's got a Force of Will here. I think I see a Daze. Fetches with his Verdant Catacombs. The one of Verdant Catacombs.
Exotic from the second drop. Please return to the drop table area. Further instruction for the top end.
All right, so fetching maybe basic Swamp. He got Wastelanded last game. He would like to avoid it this game. And there it is, basic Swamp. A split between Zendikar and Beta Lands. All right, so Milton casts a blue spell. It is Careful Study.
So many ways for the game just to end on this turn right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff has access to 1 land right now. He could potentially plow something. He does not have access to Extirpate or Surgical Extraction in his sideboard, though Milton does not necessarily know that. With the Force of Will and Daze in Milton's hand, a reanimated Jingataxis here could just end things.
Iona is not terrible either. Iona on black.
I think white is maybe what I would call.
White. Pardon me.
Against Source of Plowshares and Vindicate.
Yes, white.
And Reanimate.
Reanimate.
Well,
sounds good.
It's not Iona. It is Jingataxis.
Oh, there is a Jin.
So he's got an embarrassment of riches there in his yard. I think you go with Jingataxis here because you with the Daze and Force of Will in Milton's hand, he can protect Jingataxis through his end step, and then certainly have more options to get that Iona on future turns.
This really does feel a lot in many ways like Tricks.
Why would you say that?
Well, because,
no, he is going with Iona.
Okay, because with the Jingataxis, what you end up having happen sometimes is you're like, cast this card, okay, counter to make sure it happens, draw
Refill.
7.
Sure, yeah, I can see in that sense your ability to sort of protect your combo in that way. And then refuel.
You're like, gain 20, like... Iona.
So Iona on turn 2 is a pretty hard thing to beat.
White is indeed the color.
So Jeff Cosgrove, is he going to his draw step? Not too much he can do here. He could try to race Iona.
Without a Knight of the Reliquary, that would be hard.
I mean, Milton is at 10 life. That reanimate cost him quite a bit. But
I mean, he can
but
end of the
it's
turn.
already in play.
Huh.
And we do know that Milton has Force of Will and Daze in hand. Jeff does not have access to Diabolic Edict. He does not have access to Phyrexian Metamorph, two of the cards that many decks have to deal with these difficult-to-kill legends. So Jeff searches for Scrubland Bayou.
What I was kind of imagining as the only way that he might be able to win is if he kept the fetch land out, and I don't remember, was that a Windswept Heath?
It was, yes.
Yeah, and then when Iona came in, searched up the Dryad Arbor, and then laid a land and double Noble Hierarch and came in for 3, tried to erase it, but right now I'm just like struggling for any random way.
Iona's gigantic.
I know. I know. I'm not saying this is a race he could win. I'm
and
saying,
Exhume. Okay.
I wasn't saying he was winning the race that fast.
Well, now we have Iona and Jingataxis against Dark Confidant. So Jeff will be able to draw some cards, but Milton is drawing a lot more. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Milton has at least a 50% chance of winning this game.
I think that's probably fair. It's possible, though, he could draw 10 or 12 cards here by accident. And
Yeah, that's... He over-necros.
Yep. Drawing 7 is so ridiculous. Like,
I do enjoy drawing cards, and 7 is a fine number to draw.
Contract from below?
What are you anteing?
Well, Jin is like, casting me was enough. You don't have to worry about it, buddy.
All right.
I got you covered.
It's like, dude, this is on me. This one's on
I got
me.
it.
If you can afford 10 mana, or 1 mana, as the case may be,
1 black, draw 7.
that's actually pretty much what happens.
Jeff's still playing.
Technically. So Reanimator is. We were talking about how Dredge earlier. We were talking about how Dredge is a deck that sort of waxes and wanes in effectiveness, and Reanimator is similar, though Reanimator is a more resilient deck in some ways than Dredge.
Force of Will
Because
and
it has ability.
Brainstorm.
Yeah, it has the ability to fight against much of the hate that people have. Ooh, a
Maze. I'm amazed.
That is going to stall the game against the guy who's drawing 7 every turn. So while it's neat,
I don't know if it's just neat. He has to draw 7.
I know, but there's still an Iona, and he still has more reanimation effects, and he's discarding a bunch of cards each turn. He's just going to get to more stuff. It's not like he's getting decked in 3 turns.
That depends on when he draws the reanimations.
Jeff is also at 11 life. Even Jingataxis gets to attack. He's what, a 5/4?
Yes. Let's check your hands. I mean,
Nope,
actually, you've got no
ponder.
hand. Oops.
And Jeff has to discard his hand.
Ponder.
Didn't even have another play.
Look at that hand. Triple Force of Will, other goodies.
An embarrassment of riches.
Milton Figueroa with Jin Kataxis is the 1%.
1% of Praetors have 99% of the cards. And ponders, draws a card. Do we have an Exhume here? I think that's another Exhume.
I see
You know what? I think that was Echoing Truth.
Echoing Truth. Force of
So-
Will, Force of Will, Force of Will.
Well, that's
Here they
11
come.
damage coming in, so
Let's stop that one.
Jeff only drops to 6 life. And Entomb.
Oh, he's making his deck even smaller.
Uh-oh. He's 1 card closer to getting decked. Now, if Jeff...
Angel of Despair.
It is.
There it is. A card you know well.
Well, if Milton forgets the trigger on an Angel of Despair, he could be in some trouble. All right, so shuffles up, and is he reanimating?
I don't think he is. I think he's waiting a turn.
Yeah, I wouldn't reanimate. There's, maybe something crazy could happen, like you get bump in the night. Like you're sitting here with, a million counter spells, absolutely dominating board position. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to need these. Dark Confidant reveals a land, so Jeff is not in range of lethal quite yet from
What is this, a
Jingataxis.
Vesuva? Oh my god.
All right.
There have been very few times in constructed Magic where I've wanted 2 Mazaviths. This would be one that I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Go.
Discard your hand.
It's this Swords to Plowshares. I'm not swordsing your Jin-Gitax. This is my only way.
I'm gonna choose not to. I'm gonna choose not to play the swords.
Hell, actually, I might have swords the Dark Confidant.
Well, he gets a chump block.
Yeah,
this turn.
chump block. There we go. There we go. That does the same work.
So.
Oh, maze.
1, 2.
Am I gonna be
4,
amazed?
5, 6, 7. All right.
He's like, there's the reanimation spell I want.
How many times has he drawn 7 this game?
A few.
Maybe. I mean, does he have 7 cards left in his deck? 8 cards left in his deck?
It's getting close.
I mean, Milton's hand is something like 100 Force of Wills and an Echoing Truth. So, as long as Maze single-handedly doesn't defeat him, didn't want to play it. Don't need it.
Here we go. Draw.
Attack you.
Reanimate the Angel of Despair first.
Oh, he has okay, yeah, he has some sort of reanimate effect.
What you got in the yard? Anything that I should worry about? Like,
yeah, he's like
triple
anything.
flashback Coffin Purge.
He has a extirpate with flashback. Nope, no extirpate. All right, exhume. Milton has this one handily in control, but he's playing very, very carefully.
Okay, comes into play. Jeff Cosgrove's looking for something here. Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, that's not going to do it. The amazing maze is no more.
How big is Iona?
I got some rub-ins for you.
Echoing Truth.
That. And that's the game. Jeff
Goodbye,
Cosgrove sends
Jeff
the hand,
Cosgrove.
and Milton Figueroa will, I believe, advance to our top 8. We will see. Contingent on tiebreakers. We did see our last round match yesterday get 9th, the winner. So, no promises yet for Milton fans back home.
That's right. That's right. I mean, one thing you don't want to do, I generally found, is do the premature celebrations.
Right.
You know, like I was telling you before where that had happened, but I didn't go into the quick details. Like,